are investment, financing, and dividend decisions. The success of any firm rests not only on the optimal utilization of funds, but also on efficient management of income earned from its operations. The important decision is how much profits to be distributed and how much to be retained. The dividend decision is also an integral part of financing decision, and the dividend decision is one of the most important areas of decision making for a finance manager. Now the issue is how significant is the dividend decision? Does it affect the value of the firm? Does it affect the cost of capital of the company? If the answer to these two questions is yes, dividend decision is significant. Rather, you may say very, very significant. The actions taken in this area affects the growth of a firm and its value. Theories of dividend. We are aware that any theory of finance deals with various variables which are supposed to have bearing on the value of a business firm. Value of a firm is taken to be a function of V, that is value of the firm, equal to function F of I, investment which determine the earning power of the firm. F, that is debt equity mix or capital structure which decides the cost of the capital of the firm. D, dividend decision which determines the amount of earnings going to the shareholders and retained by the firm for future purpose. T, tax rate, which partly determines the earnings available either for dividend distribution and for retention. And F is the flotation cost or issue cost which are incurred by a firm when it raises funds externally. On the question of influence of dividend decision on the value of the firm, there are contrasting views. The theories of dividend can broadly be classified into two groups. Number one, which consider dividend policy as a relevant variable to enhance shareholders' wealth. And number two, theory which consider dividend policy as of no relevance. Now, first of all, relevance theories of dividend. The relevance dividend theories support the view that the dividend policy has profound impact on the value of a firm. There are three theories under this school of thought. They are traditional theory, Walter's model, and Gordon's model. I will discuss one by one. Traditional theory. The traditional theory was expounded by Graham and Dodd. According to them, the stock market is overwhelmingly in favor of liberal dividends as against niggardly dividends. As per this model, the importance attached to liberal current dividends by the shareholder is more. The shareholders give less importance to capital gain that may arise in future. Therefore, firms which pay more current dividends will have higher market value than the firms which pay less dividend. The model can be expressed in a formula. This P equal to M multiplied by D plus E upon 3. Here P stands for market price per share. D stands for dividend per share. E stands for earning per share. And M is the multiplier. While we do the mathematical calculations, the formula in its advanced form will be P equal to M multiplied by 4D plus R divided by 3. You may also say P equal to 4 by 3D plus 1 by 3R multiplied by M. The weight attached to dividend is equal to 4 times the weight attached to the retained earnings. These weights provided by Graham and Dodd are based on their subjective judgment and not derived from objective analysis. According to their view, the liberal payout policy has favorable impact on stock prices. Now, Walter's model. Professor James E. Walter emphasized that dividend policy is a critical factor affecting the firm's value. According to him, dividend policy hinges on firm's internal rate of return, that is R, and the cost of capital, that is K. This model is based on the following assumptions. Number one, the firm finances new investment through retained earnings only. Number two, the firm's internal rate of return and cost of capital are constant. Number three, 100% of earnings is either distributed as dividends or reinvested internally. Number four, the initial earnings and dividends remain constant forever. The earning per share and dividend per share may be changed to determine results, but any given values of EPS and the D assumed to be remain constant forever in determining a given value. 5. The firm has a very long infinite life. The following is the Walters formula to determine the market price per share. P, that is market price per share of an equity share, equal to D, dividend per share, plus E, earning per share, minus D, dividend per share, or you may say E minus D is retained earnings, that is multiplied by R, or rate of return on investment, and then divided by K, that is cost of capital. E minus D multiplied by R means return on retained earning invested. Dividend policy and the value of share. I will discuss the formula after some time, but first here, dividend policy and the value of share. I have taken 3 examples: growth firm, normal firm, and declining. Growth firm means R is greater than K. R is the rate of return and K is the cost of capital. Or assumed to be R equal to 16% while K is equal to 10%. In case of normal firm, R is equal to K, both 10%. In case of declining firm, R is less than K. Say R equal to 8% and K equal to 10%. EPS, earning per share, has been assumed to be rupees 10 in all the three cases. When payout ratio is 0% or dividend is 0, the value will be rupees 160. These values have been put into that formula which I have just discussed. In case of normal firm, the value will be rupees 100. In case of declining firm, the value will be rupees 80. Now you can see that in case of growth firm, the value is highest when the payout ratio is 0. While in case of declining firm, it is the least. And in case of normal firm, there is irrelevance. When payout ratio is 30% or dividend is rupees 3, with the help of that formula, the value will be 142 in case of growth firm, rupees 100 in case of normal firm, and rupees 86 in case of declining. If you see that in case of normal firm, whatever dividend is given, the value remains rupees 100. Whether you pay no dividend or you pay 30%, 50%, 80%, or 100%, the value always remains same, that is 100. While in case of growth firms, this value is declining as the payout ratio is increasing. When payout is 0, the value is 160. When 30%, it is 142. When 50%, it is 130. When 80%, it is 112. And when it is 100%, the value becomes rupees 100. While in case of declining firm, the value is increasing. In case of 0% payout, it is rupees 80. In case of 30%, it is 86. In case of 50%, it is 90. In case of 80%, it is 96. And in case of 100%, it is 100. You may see that in case of 100% payout, the value is same in all the three cases, whether the growth firm, normal firm, or declining firm. The optimum dividend policy from the firm is as follows. This is the result of the table which we had discussed. In case of growth firms have very good investment opportunities with return greater than their respective cost of capital. In case of the growth firms, shareholders would expect the company to retain earnings and pay less or nil dividend. Hence, the 0% dividend or 100% retention is advisable for growth firms. In case of normal firms, Actually, there is irrelevance, but the same principle, if you remember, 1 rupee today is better than 2 rupees tomorrow. Therefore, 100% dividend payout is preferable. Over a period, firms may not find unlimited investment opportunities with return higher than their cost of capital. They may have investment with return equal to cost of capital. In this case, they prefer dividend rather than retention. Hence, 100% dividend payout is preferable. In case of declining firms, as the shareholder have better options outside, therefore, these firms may not have investment opportunities giving return at least equal to the cost of capital. Such firms can at best declare 100% dividend payout to enhance shareholders' value so that the shareholders may invest in the better opportunities. This is now Walter's model. Though Walter's model has been successful in highlighting the role of a firm's return and the cost of capital in determining the dividend policy, the model was criticized for its following unrealistic assumptions. No external financing. Walter's model is mixing both dividend policy and investment policy by assuming that investment opportunities will be financed only with retained earnings without resulting to either debt or new equity. And this is not fair. This is not in the practical life. Constant rate of return. Walter's model assumes a constant rate of return, which in the real life may not hold good. Constant opportunity cost of capital. Another assumption of Walter's model, which may not hold good, is constant opportunity cost of capital. However, the firm's cost of capital changes with its risk and with the macroeconomic changes in the economy. Now, example, from the following details, calculate the market value of equity shares of a firm by using Walter's model. Earning per share, assumed to be rupees 5. Dividend per share, rupees 3. Rate of return, 10%, and cost of capital also 10%. Will there be any change in the market value of equity share if the dividend payout ratio is 100% in place of 60%? The calculations I have given afterward, but the findings are, if we calculate market value of share as per Walter's model, it will be rupees 50 in both payouts, whether 100% or 60%. There is no change in the market value because return on investment is equal to cost of capital. This is a case of normal company. Dividend payout ratio has no bearing on the value of share. That is why dividend decision is irrelevant in such cases. But in case of declining company, 100% dividend payout is advisable. To sum up, growth firm, if R is greater than K, 0% dividend payment. Declining firm, if R is less than K, 100% dividend payment. And normal for R is equal to K, dividend decision is irrelevant. Now, the calculation which I have given you, the V equal to D plus E minus D multiplied by R divided by K upon K. In case of payouts, both the payouts, 60%, 100%, the value comes to be rupees 50. There is no change in the market value because return on investment is equal to cost of capital. This is a case of normal company. Dividend payout ratio has no bearing on the value of share. That is why dividend decision is irrelevant in such cases. But if we calculate it for the growth companies, this will be higher than this. And in case of declining company, this will be higher than this. Now Gordon's model. Myron Gordon proposed a model of stock valuation which is supporting the dividend relevance decision in case of a growth firm. Means when R is greater than K. And in case of a declining firm, when R is less than K, and irrelevance of dividend decision in case of a normal firm when R is equal to K. This theory relating dividend policy and the firm's value based on the following assumption. The firm has only equity capital and no debt. Only retained earnings will be used for financing expansion. This assumption mixes dividend and investment policy, similar to Walter's model. Firm's internal rate of return is constant, which is not correct in practice. Firm's discount rate is constant. Even this assumption is also incorrect as in case of Walter's model. The firm and its stream of earnings are perpetual. The corporate taxes are nil, which you will not find in any country. The retention ratio, once decided, remains constant, leading to a constant growth of earnings. The discount rate is higher than the growth rate. The formula, according to Gordon's model, the market value of a firm's share will be equal to the present value of future stream of dividends payable for that share. Accordingly, the value of share can be obtained by the following equation. P0, that is the market price of a share at the end of year 0. E1, earning per share at the end of year 1. B is the retention ratio or percentage of earnings retained by the firm. 1 minus B is dividend payout ratio. Means if retention ratio 30%, then dividend payout will be 70%. K is cost of capital. That is rate of return expected by the shareholders. R is return on investment. BR is equal to G, that is growth rate of earnings and dividends. The above equation highlights the relationship of earnings, dividend policy, internal rate of return, and the firm's cost of equity in deciding the value of the share. The influence of dividend decision on the value of share and therefore on the firm's value can be understood by observing the implication of dividend policy for growth, normal, and declining firms. This is this. If the firm's internal rate of return is less than its discount rate, retaining earning is not useful for the shareholders' value maximization because by retaining earnings in the firm to invest at a lower rate of return, the shareholders are denied the opportunity to invest at higher or at least at rates equal to the discount rate. In such situation, the 100% payout will maximize the shareholders' wealth. The promoters can even think of partial or full disinvestment. If the firm's discount rate is less than the prevailing rate of return in the market, to boost the shareholders' wealth, it is necessary that there should be 100% payout. For normal firms whose discount rate is equal to their internal rate of return, the dividend policy is of no significance, as each firm's value remains the same irrespective of any payout ratio adopted. The growth firms do well by retaining maximum portion of their earnings to increase the shareholders' value. Because the opportunity available to the shareholders are less attractive when compared to those available to the growth firm. The conclusions drawn by Gordon's model are akin to those of Walter's model, essentially due to the similar assumptions made by both. However, Gordon adds that uncertainty increases with futurity when dividend policy is considered in this context. The discount rate cannot be used to predict the future earnings because only dividends, other things remaining constant. Therefore, Gordon concludes that dividend policy does affect the firm's wealth. Then even those firms having the rate of return equal to their respective discount rates cannot be indifferent to the dividend policy. The investors prefer dividend to capital gains because dividends are easier to predict, less risky, and do not involve timing decisions. Dividend policy and the value of share. Again, I have taken three examples of growth firm, normal firm, and declining firm. Growth firm rate is 16%, while cost of capital is 12%. That is, rate is more than cost of capital. Normal firm, both are equal 12%. Declining firm, rate is 9%, while cost of capital is 12%. Earning per share has been assumed to be 12 in each case. If the payout ratio is 30% or retention is 70%. In case of growth firm, the value of the share will be 450, while in case of declining firm it will be 63, and in case of normal firm it will be always 100. But when we increase the payout ratio to 60% or we reduce the retention ratio to 40%, the value in case of growth firm decreases from 450 to 129. But in case of declining firm, it increases from 63 to 86. As I've already told, that in case of normal firms, it will always remain same. When payout ratio is further increased, 90% and retention ratio is 10%. In case of growth firm, value will reduce further to 104, and in case of declining firm, it will increase further from 86 to 97. If we take payout ratio to be 100%, the value in all the three firms will be rupees 100 each. Same type of conclusions which were there in the Walters model. Now, irrelevance theory or hypothesis. The irrelevance dividend theory, hypothesis, supports the view that the dividend decision has no impact on the valuation of firm. MM's model is based on the following assumptions. The capital markets are perfect and the information is available freely. Investors behave rationally and the firms have a fixed investment policy. Transaction and rotation costs do not exist, and no investor can influence the capital market. Securities are divisible and company's investment policy is independent of its dividend policy. Investment opportunities and future profits of the companies are known with certainty. Either taxes do not exist or they are same on both dividend income and capital gains, so that investors do not prefer one over the other. The investors can forecast future prices and dividends with certainty, and one discount rate is appropriate for all securities and all time periods. If you see these assumptions, they are not practically available in the real life. For example, this one, the tax on dividend income and capital gains, the rates are different almost in all the countries. Nobody can forecast the prices even after, say, 2 minutes, what to say of future. When the aforesaid assumptions operate in capital market, the rate of return will be equal to the discount rate, which is same for all shares in the long term. Consequently, the price of each share must adjust so that the rate of return based on dividends and capital gains on each share will be equal to its discount rate, and it must be identical for all shares. The hypothesis believed that the equality would take place through the process of switching from low yield shares to high yield shares. According to model, the rate of return for one period can be computed as follows. If we take 1 year period of holding, the value of share That is P0 will be equal to the present value of dividend paid at the end of 1 year plus present value of share price at the end of 1 year. Or you may say P0 equal to D1 plus P1. The formula is given P0 equal to D1 plus P1 divided by 1 plus K. K is the discount rate applicable to risk class to which the firm belongs. After doing all the mathematical calculations, the formula will become NP0 equal to N plus M multiplied by P1 minus 1 plus X upon 1 plus K. Example showing irrelevance of dividend. A chemical company currently has 1 lakh equity shares selling at rupees 100 each. The firm expects to earn a net income of rupees 10 lakh during the current year and is contemplating to declare a dividend of rupees 6 per share at the end of current year. It has a proposal for a new investment of rupees 20 lakh and the company's cost of capital is 10%. Now, if the company declares a dividend of rupees 6 per share, the value of stock as per model will be rupees 1 crore. And if company does not declare any dividend, even then the value of stock will be rupees 1 crore. The calculation I have shown in the next solution. This shows the irrelevance of the dividend to the value of stock. This is given here. If dividend is declared rupees 6, then the value comes rupees 1 crore. This is the values are here applied to this formula P0 equal to D1 plus P1 upon 1 plus K and P1 is P0 1 plus K minus D1. Situation 1. When dividend of rupees 6 per share are declared, NPO, old capital is 1 lakh shares into rupees 100, that is 1 crore. Crore. From the equation, we can understand that the value of a company is dependent upon its net income, the investment, the amount of capital, and the cost of capital. But the value is not influenced by the dividends. Further stated that the firm need not have only equity capital to hold their model true. They concluded that their hypothesis of dividend irrelevance holds good even if the firm raises debt capital instead of equity. For this, they put forth their indifference hypothesis with reference to leverage. These conclusions are based on several restrictive assumptions of MM model. The dividend policy may affect the value of a share if those assumptions are relaxed and the market imperfections are considered as discussed under. Tax differential. Model made a simplistic assumption of no taxes or same tax rate on both dividends and capital gain. But the reality is far from the assumption. In most of the countries, both are taxed at different rates. Normally, dividends are clubbed with ordinary income for tax purposes, which is taxed at a higher rate when compared to the capital gains. Flotation cost. Model assumes that the cost of retained earnings and external financing are same, but reality is far from assumption. Transaction and monitoring cost. Model assumes that transaction costs do not exist. They also assume that the shareholders can sell a small portion of their shares in lieu of dividend when they are indifferent between dividend and capital gains. But reality is far from that assumption. Existence of perfect capital market. Model assumes that there exists a perfect capital market where information is freely available and future share prices are known with certainty. In practice, companies do not share complete information with shareholders. Uncertainty and preference for dividend. Model professes that the dividend policy continues to be irrelevant even under the conditions of uncertainty, because the share value of two firms with identical investment policies, business risk, and future earnings cannot be different. These views are not convincing to many researchers. And in case of diversification also, the argument of same discount rate for all firms may not hold good, because investors' preference for a diversified portfolio of securities. Now the second part of the block, dividend policy. A business organization always aims at earning profits. The utilization of profits earned is a significant financial decision. The main issue here is whether the profits should be used by the owner or retained and reinvested in the business itself. This decision does not involve any problem insofar as the sole proprietary business and partnership is concerned. Since company is an artificial person, the decision regarding utilization of profits rests with a group of people, namely board of directors. As in any other types of organization, disposal of net earnings of a company involves either their retention in the business or their distribution to the owner in the form of dividend, or both. Therefore, the decision making is somewhat complex in the case of joint stock companies. In case of a company, the decision regarding dividend is taken by the board of directors and is then recommended to the shareholders for their formal approval in the annual general meeting of the company. The disposal of profits in the form of dividends can become a controversial issue because of conflicting interests of various parties like directors, employees, shareholders, debenture holder, lending institutions, etc. Forms of dividend. Normally, dividends are paid in cash, but there are also other forms such as scrip dividends, debenture dividends, stock dividends, and in unusual circumstances, property. Stock dividend, that is bonus share. Instead of paying dividends out of accumulated reserves, the latter may be capitalized by issue of bonus shares to the shareholders. Stock splits, a method of either increasing or decreasing by a reverse split the number of shares outstanding and thereby proportionately lowering or raising the market price per share. If a company believes that its shares is priced too high and that lowering the market price will enhance trading activity, one equity share is divided into two or more shares, and vice versa in case of reverse split. Stock repurchases, buyback. Companies repurchase their stock to change their capital structure or to increase the returns to the owners. Companies with exceptionally good liquid position, which do not have attractive investment opportunities, buy back their shares. Property dividend. A company may issue a non-monetary dividend to investors rather than making a cash or stock payment. This form of dividend is unusual, and such dividend may be in the form of inventory or securities in lieu of cash payment. Debenture dividends. The companies may also issue debentures in lieu of dividends to their shareholders. These debentures bear interest and are payable after a prescribed period. It is just like creating a long-term debt. This is not a common practice. Scrip dividend. A company may not have sufficient fund to issue dividends in the near future. In such situations, issues a scrip dividend. Liquidating dividends. When the board of directors wishes to return the capital originally contributed by shareholders as a dividend, it is called a liquidating dividend and may be a precursor to shutting down of the business. Factors affecting dividend decisions. There are two types of factors which affect dividend decision: ownership considerations and firm-oriented considerations. Ownership consideration. Where the ownership is concentrated in few people, there are no problems in identifying ownership interest. However, where ownership is largely spread on a wide spectrum, which is the case in case of majority of companies, the identification of their interest becomes difficult. Efforts should be made to ascertain the following interest of shareholders to encourage market acceptance of the stock: current income requirements of stockholders, alternative use of funds in the hands of stockholders, and tax matter affecting stockholders. Firm-oriented consideration. The ownership interest alone may not determine the dividend policy. A firm's needs are also an important consideration, which include the following: contractual and legal restrictions, liquidity, credit standing, and working capital needs, dividends decisions, need of funds for immediate or future expansion, availability of external capital, risk of losing control of organization, relative cost of external funds, business cycles, post-dividend policies, and stockholder relationship. Determinants of dividend policy. External factors. The external factors are those factors which are uncontrollable and cannot be influenced by decision of the management of the company. The finance manager has to adopt his policies whenever there is change in these factors. The first and the most important one is state of the economy. The general state of the economy in which the company operates has a great impact on dividend policy. If the economy is passing through boom or prosperity, all the business will be expanding, showing good financial results. Market price of share rises rapidly. If the recession persists, businesses must cut down the production capacities. The market price of the companies continues to fall, and companies must make a logical balance between dividends and retention to stabilize the market price. State of capital market. This is related to companies' access to the capital market. If the capital market is overwhelmingly in favor of equity issue, then the companies may adopt liberal dividend policy. Tax policy. If the dividends are taxable in the hands of shareholders in the highest tax bracket would prefer not to receive dividend. They would prefer capital gains which are taxed at lower rates. But at the same time, shareholder in lower tax brackets or out of tax system would prefer dividend. Inflation. Inflation is also a factor which may affect a firm's dividend decision. During the inflation, funds generated from depreciation may not be adequate to replace worn out equipment. The firm must depend on the retained earnings as a source of funds. Requirements of institutional investors, those who have invested their money in the company. Internal factors. Nature of business. Any business enterprise engaged in the production with steady demand can follow a liberal dividend policy. There are various factors which are controllable by the companies with seasonal variation or cyclical variations in the demand for their product. These companies can follow liberal dividend policy. They adopt a cautious approach. The business firm with unstable earnings adopt dividend policies which are different from those of steady earnings. Composing of shareholder. If the shareholders belong to low income brackets or retired persons, the expectation for a regular dividend will be more, which influences the dividend policy. Alternate use of funds. If the shareholders have alternative usage of the funds, they will prefer the company to declare dividends so that they can invest the dividend amount in alternative opportunities. Control. If the management's existing shareholder wants the control, then they will not like to dilute their control. They would prefer low dividend payout. Desire for liquid funds means low payout and other factors. Types of dividend policies. The objective of management of any company is usually the maximization of the market value of enterprise, that is wealth. Dividend policy should be analyzed in terms of its effect on the value of company. Dividend decision should not be treated as a short-run residual decision because variability of our annual earnings. Dividend policy options. Whether dividend should be paid right from the initial year as fixed percentage or as a fixed percentage of total earnings. A stable rupee dividend policy, the dividend will remain same whether there is profit or not. Incremental dividend policy, rate will increase and stable dividend payout rate ratio of dividends to earning will be increasing steadily. Residual dividend policy means whatever is left after capital budget, finance budget, etc., that will be paid as dividend. This has been shown in this chart. Earnings are increasing, pure residual dividend is increasing, and smooth dividend, this is there. According to Littner's survey of corporate dividend behavior, most of the companies think in terms of proportion of earnings that should be paid out as dividends rather than in terms of the proportion of earnings that should be plowed back, and companies try to reach the target payout ratio gradually over a period of time because shareholders prefer a steady progression in dividend. Thus, the dividend decision is an important means by which information about the prospects of a company are conveyed. Dividend policy should also resolve uncertainty and improve shareholders' confidence so that the market price of share stabilizes and grows steadily. That's all. Thank you. Namaskar.